Times bestseller, Jan Brent.
I am so overwhelmed by your turnout and welcome. I just really appreciate it. You must have a lot of book lovers in your community. And it's also wonderful to be greeted by all my feathered friends over there. When I go out to my mailbox or look at my email, the question children ask me the most is how do I get ideas for my books? I think because many of you are writing your own stories and drawing your own stories. So today I'd like to tell you how I got the idea for Cinders, the Chicken Cinderella. I'm going to do a little drawing for you. It's going to be like an art lesson. And then just a few words about your creativity, which is probably the most important thing of all. Before I get started, I would like to introduce you to my husband, Joe. Now, I don't know how many of you are musicians, but if you are, and you play in this little symphony orchestra or a band, you'll know that the string family has many members, and the smallest is the violin, which you play under your chin, and it has very often a melody. And then the next biggest is the viola, which also has a melody many times. It has a little bit of a deeper voice, that's what they call it. And then the next is the cello, which is on the floor, and you bow it like this, and it is the closest to the human voice in range. It's a beautiful instrument. But the most grand, majestic, and largest, over 6 feet tall, stringed instrument in the symphony orchestra is the double bass, and that's what Joe plays in the Boston Symphony, and I'd like to introduce him. Years. So I always go on tours with the Boston Symphony, and then he comes with me on the book tours. But only when I go with him, I have to carry his double bass. It gets really heavy. That's just a joke. My editor's name is Margaret, and sometimes we'll be talking on the phone about the book, but she has a little flock of chickens, and I've had chickens for 15 years. I got my first ones when I was doing a book about chickens, and I wanted to have a little baby chicks that I could grow up, and they would be nice and tame so I could sketch them and pose them on my art table, which I did, but then I fell in love with chickens, and I have since then started to raise chickens and exhibit them, and so Margaret and I will often talk about that. And one time Margaret said, Jim, what do you do when I have this little pen and she's molting, everyone is being mean to her, and I said, well, give her her own food and water so she doesn't have to fight for it, and you'll be surprised when those feathers go in. Well, if you don't know what that is, molting. A chicken will once a year will lose its feathers one by one, and new ones will grow in its place. Well, when they're all grown in, it's like the chicken has a brand new set of clothes. And so often what will happen is that one that's being picked on is all of a sudden the queen of the chicken house. And so when I was saying that to Margaret, we both said, just like Cinderella. Well, we were on the phone, and Margaret said, Jan, have you ever thought of doing a Chicken Cinderella? And I thought, well, let me think about it, and my imagination started to run away with me. I thought maybe I'd set it in Russia, because how funny it would be to show, hens are very dignified, and to show them in these beautiful ball gowns would be really fun to do. And I knew that in Russia, not only did they have beautiful ball gowns that were kind of more folkloric than perhaps the French tradition, and they had these beautiful hats. And I thought those would look very good on a chicken, and it could go right on the back where their comb ended. So one thing led to another. I set it in winter so the pumpkin doesn't turn into a carriage, it turns into a sleigh. And Joe and I went to St. Petersburg, Russia, to get ideas for the book. And we went to Novgorod, which is the ancient capital of Russia, to see some of the beautiful architecture. You can kind of see, I kind of made it in a fanciful way. I made it made out of ice and snow to make it seem even more magical, because then it would melt away in the spring. But this kind of onion dome is typical. And then they have a shingle style made out of wood and lots of ginger, we call it gingerbread, but they call it wood lace. So every door and every window has layers and layers of these trims that have scallops and zigzags and little pieces cut out to make beautiful designs. And it's in Novgorod, it's all in a kind of a human scale. In St. Petersburg, there's lots of palaces, but they're really huge and lavish. So I was really glad that I went to Novgorod. And when we were in Russia, we went for walks in the woods, and we ate Russian food, and had a Russian steam bath, and tried to do all things Russian. And it's funny how some of those things have come up in the book. So those were the three ideas that came together. The chickens, the making the story in the wintertime, and also setting it in Russia. So that trip really helped me. And then I have to tell you a little bit about my models for the story. For Cinders, I wanted a chicken that would be kind of gray colored because she has ashes on her, that's a traditional story. But I also wanted one that, well, she wouldn't be showy, but then when you looked a little closer, you saw that her feathers were really very beautiful and that she would have big luminous eyes, kind of radiating intelligence and loveliness. So I'd like to introduce you to Cinders, who is a silver phoenix. She is a pullet, so which means a female chicken under 1 year. Now, would you like to come out, Miss Nancy? Come on. Come on. Here she is. So she's a very, from a distance, probably doesn't look too showy, but if you could come closer, you'd see that her feathers are very beautiful. And the male counterpart is very striking and has very long tail feathers. They can grow over 3 feet long, have a beautiful green shade, and his breast is black, and then this part, his hackle feathers are pure white, and he has a big red comb. So I thought he would be perfect for Prince Cockerel. So she has been a very, up to like the second, she's been very happy about coming and meeting everybody. But now she's going to go back so that I can introduce you to the fairy princess, who is a silky hen. And that's a very unusual breed. And it looks like she has taken a dust bath in here, which if you have chickens, you know that it means lying down in the bedding and scratching and covering yourself with it. So I might leave a little trail of shavings here. They just had new shavings today. Well, she's a silky hen. Now this is an unusual chicken because the feathers are almost like chipped down. They don't really have the barbs that a normal feather would have that would hold it together. And she really can't fly very much. She could probably, by beating her wings, maybe get a couple of feet up onto the air into her roost. But she is basically not a flyer like Cinders is. Cinders could go up in one of those basketball things and she could stay there all night, so I wouldn't let her go. But, so this breed, it has 5 toes. It has this beautiful fluffy top knot. Underneath these white feathers, and they do come in different colors. There's a black one, partridge, which is kind of a tannish one. Her skin is pure black. And then right on each side of her head, you can maybe see she has turquoise earlobes. So she's very beautiful, and black eyes and a dark beak. And these chickens are known for being very good mothers. They love to sit on eggs, and a lot of poultry breeders keep this kind of chicken because they are so good at bringing up babies. And children love them because they are very docile. And I don't think they very peck you or, the roosters are very sweet. But it's a very nice breed. So and perfect for a fairy godmother. And her name is Tanya, which is Russian for a fairy. And then the last one, I just have a scene in the book where it's the ballroom scene. And this is the white-crested Polish, which is the breed that I raise. And so her name is Trippy, and she's a hen. And the male counterpart is over on the side there, so we won't let them catch each other's eyes. because chickens do have romances. They really do. And sometimes the male will be quite lovely to the hens and will make a nest for her and give her special tidbits. As a matter of fact, I've told my husband that I learned everything I needed to know about men by watching my roosters. So Chippy's going to go back now, and they're going to come and put them back on the bus because it's time for them to go to roost now, and they're going to go to sleep. So they've had a nice day today, and we had a little bit of time off, and they got to go outside. So there you go. Thank you, girls. And you can probably imagine why I didn't bring a rooster for 2.5 weeks on the bus. Roosters love to greet the sun with a crow about 5 o'clock in the morning, just even before pre-dawn. And so we didn't really want to have that. So I would like to draw a picture of, I want to draw a picture, but first I have a demonstration, because I know a lot of you are artists, and I have a few little tidbits I can tell you that are going to help you with your drawing. Now the first one is, when you're drawing, and let's say your drawing's not coming out well, I mean I do this myself, and I know something's wrong but I don't know what it is. What you can do is take that drawing and put it in a mirror, and it's like looking at it for the first time. Everything is reversed. So that's an interesting test you can do. And all of a sudden somebody will say, oh, well, maybe the eyes are too up high in the head, or maybe the feet don't look like they're flat on the floor, or some people just pop out at you because you're just like seeing it for the first time. So that's one little good idea. And then the second one is to pay a lot of attention to your creature's eyes. So I say creature because it could be a person, an animal, a chicken like I'm going to draw, or even a robot. Because as human beings, that's where we look to find out what the other person is thinking as we look at the eyes. So children, let's say you come home from school and you see mom or dad and their eyes are all squished up because they just stubbed their toe. And you know, oh, they're in pain. And before they say what happened, you just know. And then you don't ask them to make you a peanut butter sandwich or anything because, you know, they just hurt themselves. Or let's say it was your little brother getting up from a nap and his eyelids are just like half closed and you know he's too sleepy, he's not going to want to play, let him wake up a little bit. And he doesn't have to tell you, just look at his eyes. Or maybe it's your best friend comes over and their eyes are all big and round and you know, oh, they've got something exciting to tell you. Maybe they're going on a vacation or they got some good news and you want to know what it is. And you just noticed from their eyes. So I have a demonstration where I lose all my dignity and I'm going to prove about the eye business. So I'm going to cover up everything except for my eyes. And then I'm going to turn around, and when I turn back to you, I'm going to either be happy, sad, scared, surprised, or any of those things. And I'm hoping that you're going to be able to tell just by looking at my eyes what mood I'm going to be in. So, well, it's going to be acting. I won't really be in that mood. And so you can just say it out loud. You don't have to raise your hand. Okay, here comes number one. Happy. Yes. So now when you think about it, when you smile, the corners of your mouth turn up, and then it pushes your cheeks up, and then your eyes become more crescent-shaped, and maybe my eyebrows went up a touch. So that would be happy. Okay, here comes one. Sad, you got that right away. So now again, the mouth goes down, then maybe the eyes go down a little bit, and then my eyebrows are kind of pinched together in a little bit of a worried look, and you immediately said sad, and you were right. Here comes number three. Mad. You're getting these so quickly. Okay, so what happens there? I'm scrunching my eyebrows together, and I also used a little body language. So I hunched up my shoulders, and I thrust my neck forward a little bit, and that's what I did in my chicken book, because the one thing that's fantastic about having chickens, everybody over there I think will vouch for this, is their body language just is so transparent that you think that you know what they're thinking just because of looking at the way that the way they hold themselves. Very cute. Okay, number four. Surprise! So that time my mouth was open and my eyes are as wide as I could get them, and you said, oh yeah, she's surprised. So think of those things when you're drawing your pictures, And you might even do what I do. I don't know how this works, but if I'm drawing a character and I want them thinking, expressing an emotion, I make the face of that emotion, like maybe curiosity, and then somehow it comes out on my creature. I don't know why, but you can try it and see if it works for you. So usually it takes me an hour just to draw an inch. So I'm going to go the quick way and use markers so that we can get to the book side. So I'm going to draw Cinders, and she's going to be dressed up in her clothes. I don't dress up my chickens in clothes. They get to live like real chickens in a chicken house. So I'm going to start with 3 shapes: an egg shape. Now normally I would do this with a pencil, and then I could erase away the parts that I didn't want. But tonight I'm just going to go right over it with my markers. And then going off to the side, almost like the ear of a cat, is like an ice cream cone shape. That's going to make the chicken's neck. And then I've got almost like a piece of pie on the back end of this egg shape. And that is going to be the chicken's tail. And it's quite a generous piece of pie. Then next comes the chicken's head. So I'm starting, the top of the head is going to be at the top of the ice cream cone. So her head is going to come down way past the end. So it's not right on top of that point. And then next comes her beak. And I'm going to have her looking, stretching her neck a little bit forward. So her neck's going to be stretched forward, and her beak is going to be right off to the side. And the trick with the chicken is the mouth part goes quite a bit into the round circle that makes up her head. So it's not just all on the edge. That was a hard thing for me to learn about chickens, because they're quite hard to draw because of their natural beauty is hard to capture. And also they have quite small heads compared to their bodies. And so you have to put a lot into that little face there. So she has a round eye, and I'm going to make it very big because it's the silver phoenix. So it has the beautiful luminous eyes. And then the black part in the middle is the pupil. That's what we call it. And then I left a little white sparkle in her pupil. So when you're drawing, it can be any kind of animal that you're drawing or person. When you draw the pupil, just leave a little white spot in the corner, or it's a circle, so just on the edge of the circle. And that will be the sparkle in that animal's eyes. So it just is, our eyes will reflect the light, and that will make your picture look quite realistic. So even in cartoons, people do that. They leave a little white sparkle. And chickens have all kinds of colored eyes. Some have pale, almost white eyes. The silver phoenix has almost orange eyes, and same with my Polish, they do too. So now I'm surrounding the edge of her beak with a line, because this is where her wattles are going to hang down. And then now if you know about chickens, and she's got a little nostril there, if you know about chickens, you know that the female, when she gets to be about 6 months old, is going to start laying eggs, and her wattles and comb will turn quite bright red. And then when she's not laying, it's a more pale color. So the rooster will have larger wattles. They would probably come down to here. And this is the beginning of her comb. And some of it is going to be covered up by her beautiful hat, which in Russian is called kokoshnik. And it's, every little town has a different shape of these beautiful hats that look like crowns. And you wouldn't wear them to school. You would wear them to a wedding or a fancy dance or to a big holiday. So this one has got an unusual shape to it, only because I thought it was a pretty shape. But there are so many different ones that I could have chosen any one. So you can do that too. And I'm here, she's got ribbons hanging down. And in St. Petersburg, we went to the Museum of Ethnology, and there were about 60 mannequins. That means like a model, a pretend person. And they had on these lovely dresses called sarafan. And they looked like jumpers. They had straps, and you wore a blouse underneath that was embroidered, sometimes with silver and gold thread, and then a beautiful dress. And you'd wear that same outfit every day, but it would be in a different fabric. It would be cotton. It's something that would wash easily. And then the fancy ones would be saved for the special occasion when you'd wear the hat. And the hat would have all kinds of beautiful jewels in it. and pearls maybe, and metallic ribbon, and lots of gold and silver. And that's why I love these beautiful Russian traditional clothes, because of their beautiful decorations. They're kind of a lot more hand done, and that's what I loved about them. Okay, so now her wing is right here, and then her tail, I'm just joining that part of her back to her tail. And now my Polish usually have 7 tail feathers that come down, but they're kind of overlap each other, like the top one would be overlapping the next, and all the way down, almost like the shingles on the roof. And then I made up a little piece of fabric to go over her tail, because she's a chicken and no one really dresses up chickens, so this is just a book. And then she has her fluff area, which is all the soft feathers that go under the tail and down to her legs. And I'm going to do the legs very lightly because I'm going to cover it up with her seraphim dress. So she's got nice strong legs, and she's got 3 claws in the front, and then little pads that she puts her weight on, and then a little claw in the back. So she's got those legs right underneath her, and then I'm going to draw the straps of her seraphim dress. And I was so relieved to see when I went to this museum that many of the blouses, short jackets, and dresses had almost a smock effect in the front. So they would have some pretty ribbon here, and then they would come down in a loose way, which is perfect for chickens because they do not have waists. They're very fluffy. So I think my favorite thing to see when I was at the Museum of Ethnography was to see that exhibit on ladies' underwear, because the mother and the 2 older sisters in many of the fairy tales are evil. But I'm the oldest in my family, so I never liked it when the oldest in the fairy tale was mean and awful, and the youngest was pretty and kind, and her father loved her the best. So I changed it a little bit, and they're not really evil, they're just very self-important. They just think they're better than anyone else and deserve to get all this special treatment, which is something that they could probably change if they meant to. Maybe this will give them a lesson, the story. So here's her dress that's coming down, covering up her fluff area and covering up her legs. And then I'm going to use my artistic license. And I don't know, kids, if you don't know what this is, I want to tell you what your artistic license is. It means that you can draw something any way that you want to. You don't have to follow any rules. So I'm going to follow the rule of coloring right over my drawing that I did before, and it will hopefully look really nice when I'm done. And here's her wig that's kind of hidden under that dress part. Those are feathers, and then this will be the pretty design that will be embroidered. So she is almost done. I'm just going to color her in now. Let's see, I've got the wattles, I've got her hat, the ribbons, and then I'll put a little bit of brown that she's standing on. And then this might have a beautiful design on it. So it was very fun for me to make up all the different costumes. My favorite was for the cochin, which has a big poof right before the tail comes of feathers. And so I encased it with like a little pearl net. And so if any of you have cochin chickens, you'll appreciate that because they are very beautiful birds. Now I have 2 markers. Now if any of you are artists and you are looking for a present for maybe an upcoming birthday, these markers are called Prismacolor, and they've got a fat end and a thin end. There's different makers of them, of these markers, but they're translucent, which means they kind of see through, so I can put one color on top of the other. So she's got red around her eye, and so I'm working very hard to make it look like she has an expression. She looks a little bit stunned in this picture. That was not intentional, it just kind of came out that way. So that's all I need for my red for. Oh no, maybe I'll make some rubies. So I'm going to make a few rubies on her hat. For Kokochinek. Some rubies. And then I'm going to show you some shading, which if you want your picture to look realistic, you can take a gray, it could even be your pencil that you use on the side, and go all around the edge of your drawing. I'm skipping the ribbons, I'm not going over the ribbons, but I am going on her dress, and it will make her look more like she's round. You know, three-dimensional. And then under that little lace bodice, and some of the ripples in her clothing. And then on her feet will be the perfect place to do some shading. And this is also where I can add a few details to her face to make her look like she's looking forward to whatever's going to happen next. Anticipating would be the word, I guess. So I'm doing that with my gray, and then also around her capucha neck. And maybe I'll outline some of these jewels so that they look like they're rounded and brilliant. And then all around and then down by her feathers, each one will have a little shading there. And pretty much done there. Oh, how about under her wing? Now we can see that there really is a wing there. And the feathers in her wing, I'll just do that. So that gives her a little bit of a rounded look. And then next I have a lot of colors in this little carrier here. So I'm just going to scoop them out in whatever color I've got I'm going to use. So first one is this orange. And she has brilliant orange eyes, so I'll fill that in. Done. Then this dark gray. If you have chickens and you show them, there's this great big thick book called The Standard of Perfection. It tells what every breed should look like. And this silver phoenix has a kind of a grayish, dark gray feather with darker stippling, which just means like little tiny dots all the way through the feather, which is very pretty. So this is a little bit too brown, so maybe when I get my gray out again, I'll go over it. Those are her tail feathers and her wing feathers. And then she has a salmon-colored breast, so I bought this marker just to do that. And then her head is pretty whitish. Then I bought metallic gold to do her hat. Now I couldn't actually put gold in my book. I got to get sparkles on the front cover, front jacket, but the gold would be too expensive. So I just tried to make it look gold with my colors. And maybe I'll put a little gold on the lacing, the lace of her beautiful embroidered blouse. And the funny thing was that not only were the ladies' clothes perfect for chickens, but the boys' clothes, they wear, it looks almost like a pirate coat in those days, and they have two long tails that hang down in the back, and it's perfect because then the tail can come up between the two tails, and it's like made for a chicken. And then also they have, you know, in the olden days they would wear knee pants that would be made of satin maybe, and stockings. And a boy chicken has like little feathers that come down to about here, and it looks exactly like that style. And then his legs come down and look like those stockings. So here's a really good color for the beak. I'm almost done with her. And I'll do her legs and her beak. And then, what else have I got? Oh, I've got a beautiful purple, which is very good because she's really the princess when she marries Prince Cockerel. And purple is a royal color, I'm sure you know that. So her dress is going to be that beautiful, deep violet, also known as purple. So now I'm covering up all that sketching underneath, which normally I would erase. So there's her beautiful dress. Now maybe the straps will show, and they'll come up here. And then this little bow will be here. And then I think she should have amethysts on her hat. So the amethysts are purple. So I've got just the right marker out to do them, and I'll leave a little sparkle. Maybe the top one can be a pearl. That would be very pretty for her. So there's that part, and then I brought a couple of other accent colors for her dress. One is green. So these designs were, each one was, when I said this at the museum, each design was more beautiful than the next. It was very hard to decide how to choose the ones for my chickens. But I noticed that the Black Hills Poultry Club this year brought some of the very chickens that are in the ballroom scene of my book. I was very pleased to see that. Because I love all kinds of chickens, but you have to put a stop to it. You can't have every single one. And here's the dark gray. I just want to get her tail feathers the correct color. So this could be the stippling. Now she's almost done except for that hem, and I've got a bright yellow someplace too, and then I'll be all finished. And then an artist should always sign their work, so I will do that too. I'll do that last. These away. So one of the fun things that didn't get in the book about going to Russia, to the park near St. Petersburg, was walking in the forest and hearing a cuckoo bird. And we do not have cuckoo birds in the United States. And it sounds just like the cuckoo clock. As a matter of fact, I turned to our guide and said, is that somebody's alarm going off? Because it sounded and she said, oh no, that's a cuckoo bird. And when I heard it, I thought, oh, it was almost worth the whole trip just to hear that bird. Because I'd read about it and seen a cuckoo clock. So an artist always signs their work. So it says Jan Bratt, and then I'm going to put November 2013, because even though I'm a big lady and I've been working on my art for all these years, I try every year to get a little bit better. And I think that's one of the things that's so compelling about being an artist, is you always think that you can improve a little bit. There's always a challenge. So before I go to the book signing, for a subject is that you can never capture their beauty. They're so beautiful. For children that are here, well, grown-ups too, but if you look at your finger or your thumb and you look really closely, you can see there's little lines there. And what that is it's your fingerprint. And do you know that no one in the world has a fingerprint just like yours? You are the only one, and you are unique. And that is the same way when you draw a picture or you write a story. No one can do that exactly like you. Even if the assignment was to draw the same thing and you had directions, yours would be a little bit different, because all the things that have happened to you your whole life, that's your frame of reference. They might come out in the drawing, and also your own gifts and talents might come out in the drawing. And that's why I have a challenge for you, is in the next couple of days to take at least an hour where you're not going to have to get up and do something else, and get your art materials together. They don't have to be fancy, but the important thing is the time. And start working on a drawing. You can choose any subject, and then it's almost, this is what happens to me, you get concentrating on it, and then all of a sudden the world kind of disappears and you become more involved in the world that you're creating. And then time just goes by like poof, and all of a sudden you look up, and there's something on the paper that's like, it's almost like a real thing. And I love that when it happens to me. I hope that you'll love it when it happens to you. And that's why I love to draw, and most of all to illustrate children's books. Thank you very much. What we're going to do is